21 years ago, Mansfield Town secured promotion to what's now League One on home soil. 10 years ago, Onecourt Stadium was again a party zone, with the Stags having clinched the conference title and promotion back to the Football League. In the here and now, 4 games stand between Nigel Clough's men and having a shot at levelling up to League One once more, but with 3 of the final 4 being at home. The question is, can the Stags merge the memories of yesteryear into the dreams of tomorrow and make them a reality? Tonight we attempt to answer that as we reflect on another double-header. First, a grim result at Grimsby, followed by a more successful trip to Newport with victory over an old face and old foe. You could say, with more old faces and foes coming home on Saturday, that the drama isn't nearly over. It's in fact only just beginning. Tonight we'll talk more about that and Grimsby, Newport, James Gale's first goal, unnecessary substitutions, threadbare resources, 4 cup finals and much more in between. So as ever, come and share your comments, questions, opinions and observations in the live feed comments. This is the show for the fans by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast, proud to be part of the talkSPORT fan network.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast, the show for the fans by the fans. This show which doesn't cost you a single penny to vote on an award or to watch us or to enjoy us. Oh, the irony. What a week it's been for the Stags. A point at Grimsby and 3 points midweek at Newport keep Mansfield Town well within the playoff hunt, just outside on goal difference. Had we not conceded, we'd have been in 7th place with just 4 games to go. Let's find out who's joining me tonight to discuss all things Mansfield Town and reflect on what's been a positive week for the Stags. Let's say hello and good evening to the voice of Mansfield Town, the man who 10 years ago this very day was saying Mansfield Town are promoted to the Football League. It's Mr. Alan Wilson. Good evening.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody. Yes, I can remember that day, Craig, very well.
Yeah, absolutely we can. It's come up on the Facebook memories and that today. We'll talk about that in just a minute with this man who's changed his name, and quite rightly so. Let's say hello to Clive. £99 a ticket.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, Alan. Hello, everybody.
Good to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us. As ever, you're welcome to get your comments, questions and opinions in the live feed. If it takes me a little long tonight between switching between cameras and stuff, and while we're late on air as well, it's because just before the show, as you know, we have a ritual of making ourselves a cup of tea. I was making one. I poured boiling hot water onto the tea bag as you do, and the mug decided to leap towards me and I've burnt my hand. So this could be a very interesting few 45 minutes or so. I've got cold compress on it and hopefully it will be all right. But there's nothing I won't do for this show, and that's including getting 3rd-degree burns. Right, talking about getting 3rd-degree burns, we need to start with the elephant in the room, Clive, don't we, before we delve into any football talk, and that is the fact that Mansfield Town's commercial department need to have a serious look at themselves. Your name says it all. £99 a ticket.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced it's the commercial department who've done this stupid act. I think it's above their heads. I think it's one of the junior directors who may be or may not be related to Mr. Radford. And I think it's just an ego trip, and I honestly think at no point during what seems to be a very rapid decision to put this event on, because we're 2 weeks' notice on a Monday night, a school night, I just think at no point during that decision-making process did anybody give a fuck about the Mansfield fan.
It's an eloquent way of putting it, Alan, but I think Clive's got a very, very good point, because you look through all the comments on the social media post, launching the event itself. If anyone's missed this, by the way, and doesn't know what we're talking about, and we're not just having a random rant, end of season awards dinner in a marquee on the top training pitch, no doubt. You get to see a speech by the chairman, you get a 3-course meal, but £99 a ticket That's including VAT. They've not done the market research there, have they, Alan? I know you'll, probably get a freebie, as you rightly should, being the voice of Mansfield Town. But if you were average Joe, the fan, and I know you'd be more than happy to pay for it anyway. It's still a lot of money, isn't it, to shell out at short notice for something which we can probably just watch anyway in a few days' time.
I was surprised when it came out at that, because I looked at it first where it said £82.50. I thought, wow, that's a lot of money. And then it says excluding VAT, so worked it out. For a couple, for a lot of money. But some people will pay it. Some people can afford to pay it. So good luck to them that's going.
Alan, my personal point of view is I can afford to pay it. I'd love to go, but on principle, there's no way I'm going. And I think many people might adopt the same
that's
strategy.
Fair comment. Each to their own.
If it had been around 50 quid,
each to their own.
If it had been around £50, I'd have gladly gone. And I think that should have been about the target price. £49 would have made more commercial sense. And if that meant having a less quality meal, because I'm imagining we must have about 3 or 4 celebrity chefs cooking this meal.
For that price, you'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I know, that's fine. But the fact that it was advertised at £82.50 or £825 for a table plus VAT says everything. It's not there for the likes of us. It's there for corporates and for sponsors who will put it down to business expenses, and the VAT is reclaimable. Now, I have no problem with that. You need to look after your sponsors and your corporates, but not at the absolute expense of the fan that spends thousands of pounds each year supporting their club through thick and thin. I mean, it smacks of a complete lack of customer focus. Whoever's made this decision should walk away with their head held low.
Yeah, I actually agree. I'm actually sickened by the decision to do it. Obviously, there's a thought process behind it of we'll make it a corporate event, try and gain new commercial sponsors and things like that. But if you're going to do that, don't make it public. Don't make it open to public. As Simon in the comments says, obviously couldn't sell tickets, sell all the tickets, so decided at the last mo to offer it to fans plus VAT. It's a strange decision. I'll be honest, I've wanted to do something with us all as a podcast. We've really grown this year again. And to say that on Series 6 is great. We've added new faces to the team, things like that. So I was looking to do something as a 6, as a 10, whatever numbers you want to call it. I'd probably say as a 10 now when you include everyone who comes on every now and again. I was thinking of doing something, but at the prices that are there, I'd much rather just, us go and get a table at Nando's and, try and tap people up for discounts rather than do something like that, which is a real shame because, at the end of the season awards, you want to celebrate with the players. You want that connection, Clive. And I think that's probably the crux of it, why people are so annoyed by the decision, because they feel like they want to celebrate, but are outpriced in doing it.
It's not been planned ahead, has it? You don't launch something with this short notice unless it's been rumbling away in the background secretly. And to pick up on one of the people's points, that they've not had the sales success they were hoping for, and therefore they've thrown it out to the hoi polloi. Well, I'm speaking as a hoi polloi. I'm not playing.
Also a good point, and that Andy makes, Alan, which is saving my money for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's just strange that the season won't have finished either. We won't exactly know full well where we might have an inclination where we'll be, but it's not going to be concrete, is it? I don't think. It could go right to the wire and go right to the last match of the season. Who knows? But just a strange one.
I don't think there's anything wrong in them putting an awards night on.
No.
And I don't think, in fact, it should be primarily a fan event. I don't think there's anything wrong in doing something for your sponsors and business patrons, but that can be something separate. Put the fans one on with a pie and pea supper at an affordable price. They'd have no trouble filling the event. But we've seen in other areas they've been so reluctant to touch base with the fans, grudgingly putting what I understand to be mandatory 2 events on a year that the EFL prescribe. I mean, it's almost like we don't want to get close to the dirty old fan. They're quite happy to take our money off us. And listen, there's a lot about this football club I love, I adore, and I respect. And some of the things that I'm saying sounds like I'm a sourpuss, full stop. I am only a sourpuss about stupidity. And this is, in my opinion, there's been 2 really stupid acts by the owners and senior managers of this club this year. One has been the Danny Johnson saga, cost them thousands, and made no friends anywhere in the EFL by doing what they did. And then this blaming fiasco. Anyway, good luck to them.
Yes,
Can we
absolutely.
move on to talk about football?
Yes, we can in just a second. I do have to say, though, to anybody at the club that is watching or listening to this and wants to have a right to reply, you are welcome to a right to reply. mtfcmatters@gmail.com, or find us on social media. We'll happily have you on and we'll happily discuss.
Can I just say, Craig, that I have written to the football club through the commercial manager, who didn't acknowledge it, but said, I'll refer this on to the people who are responsible for it. I don't expect a response. I don't expect a reply. I don't expect the courtesy of it. We'll see. If I'm wrong, I'll put all my hands up.
The offer is there, as it has been since day one. This is the place for fans to have their say on their team, and you are welcome to come and have a reply. As Clive rightly said, though, Alan, let's talk all things football. A grim old day in Grimsby with a 1-1 draw, but you had some all right fish and chips, didn't you?
I certainly did. Popper's fish and chips on the pier were very nice, but the peas were cold. I didn't know that at the time when I sprayed them over my fish and chips, but there you go. You can't have everything. But yes, I thoroughly enjoyed the afternoon, sat with yourself and the other friends. You know, it was a good afternoon. I thought a draw, in my opinion, was a fair result. I thought we had the first half, and I thought they definitely edged the second half. But that's only my opinion. I thought the draw was a fair result, and that 1 point might just be the important one at the end of the season.
It could be the important one at the end of the season, Clive, or it could be the one which sees us miss out. It is on a knife edge at the moment. Yeah. You look at it, don't you? You think, you know, it's the ifs and buts again, isn't it? I'm sure we'll talk Newport in a little while, but if we don't concede at Newport, we're in 7th and not 8th going into the final 4 games. If we get a win at Grimsby rather than a draw, we're probably a little bit higher and we've got a little bit of protection there. So it's that old word again, isn't it? Perception. Where do you sit?
I think to try and pick out a point lost here or a game defeated there that should have gone the other way in a season, if you look at it at this point now, that way lies madness, because these things happen. It's no good trying to say, had we got a win at Grimsby, we would have been where we want to be. Then we may well have lost down at South Wales at Newport. So these things have a habit of happening, and as fans, we just have to put up with it. But I thought, generally speaking, the draw was fair at Cleethorpes, and I think the win at Newport was an example of a team doing one over on the other side, because I think we had a little bit of wind assistance from the referee's arse, and I think it's about time.
Yeah, these things do go round and come round. Let's stay with Grimsby for just a second, Alan. Let's look at that. You know, we're all hoping that Christy Pym pulls off the save. He does for the penalty. They just get the ball. They react quicker. I know there's been a little bit of debate over whether or not their player who ended up scoring, whether his little toenail was over the line before the whistle blowing. Fuck off. Just get on with it and react to it. We just need to, you know, make sure that we are defending well and just are reactive enough now, because, you know, like we said, we played relatively well in patches again.
We did. We came out the traps quite smartly, didn't we, on Saturday? I thought, like I said, I thought we dominated the first half, and it was just unfortunate that we only got the 1 goal, and that like crept it over the keeper's hand, didn't it? It weren't a worldie or anything, but we'll take them all. But, you know, it is what it is. We didn't react quick enough to the penalty. Now, whether Barry should have had a penalty or not, who knows? I mean, I think the jury's out on that one, whether he went down. He says definitely not, because why would he, you know, in chance of a goal scoring position, why would he go down? And that's fair comment.
The thing is, though, Alan, not one player on the Stags side appealed for it.
No, that because they still wanted to carry on, didn't they? And then he gets injured, whether he's feigning it or whether he's, you know, got injured. and that's the way it went.
I think we did
But,
enough to win at Blundell Park, but we didn't do it, and that's the story of the season, I guess.
With the team we've got and the team that we're putting out, I just think it's remarkable we are where we are. To be fair,
yeah, I agree. I think you do look through the injuries and things like that. At the end of the season, we're going to have more questions about those injuries and why we've had so many and what we're doing to achieve them. Because, like we've mentioned a number of times in passing, it does see this Mansfield Town era under Nigel Clough does seem to be more injuries than we've ever seemed to have had. He must have walked under a ladder or something at some point. But like you say, we've got what we've got. We've adapted to it. The system that we're playing with the 4-3-3 is good. It creates us some chances. We've moved a few players around. Whether or not certain players should be in those positions or not, I'm not sure. I don't think we get the best out of Elliot Hewitt at left back. But he does a job. He's the modern day Richie Sutton. He can play anywhere. He's Mr. Mansfield Town. He's Mr. Versatile, and will win all the Player of the Season votes without paying £99 for him. And also, I think if he was across at right back, Callum Johnson was on the bench as an option to come on. Kieran Wallace dropping him in at left back and utilising Jason Law a little bit more, or giving James Gale time. There are little tweaks we can do, but I guess at this stage in the season, Clive, we can sit here and be managers in the stand as much as we want, but we have to now trust in Nigel Clough to make the right decisions and get us over the line. That's what he's paid to do for, and ultimately where we finish and how we finish will be what the catalyst for whether or not he continues.
Well, let's deal with the last bit first. I think there's no danger of him not continuing it if he wants to. I don't think the club is in a position where they're sufficiently dissatisfied with what's happened to want to move him on and not, in other words, not to offer him a new contract. I don't think that's on the table. But we have every right to query, I think, some of the decisions taken by Mr. Clough, because whilst I'm the first to accept that I'm a complete amateur manager, like everyone else for that matter, we get baffled at times by some of the decisions that are taken, especially around substitutions and the timing of substitutions. We've all seen times when the decision to put subs on has been too late to make any difference to the game, and then you have to query bringing someone on in a very competitive arena who's just recovering from an enormously long injury and put him in the firing line when we didn't actually need to do it, I don't think. And in fact, and the other one was when Quinn went off, as he inevitably does. Why didn't they bring Law on to cover for that position? That seemed to me to put Macca into a midfield role, which is going to put him heavily in the mix, was a dangerous and unnecessary thing to do. And I don't expect him to play again this season. I mean, I think we have a problem with him anyway. It's not just about what happened on Tuesday night. But all in all, we have to trust Clough because he's got the experience. He knows the team inside out. He alone knows what the circumstances are around all the players. We don't. We can only guess. And that's probably because, again, the club doesn't communicate things as well as we'd all like them to.
The thing with that, Alan, as well is, you look at these final 4 games and you look at how we're going to shape up. We will take it one game at a time, but from a mindset point of view of those group of players, they would have felt frustrated on Saturday at dropping points at Grimsby, conceding in the way that they did. They may have even felt a little bit frustrated that they didn't score as many or didn't get the late penalty. I agree, by the way, it wasn't a penalty and they didn't appeal for it. But getting the victory midweek at Newport, going into these final 4 games which mean something to all of the teams involved, by the way. 2 sides battling at the top. One will probably need to come to us and get at least a point to be crowned champions. Another desperate on Saturday, desperate to get themselves back in the top 3 and solidify a place in there. And then the final 2 games, depending on how results go in the build-up to it, could well be the decisiveness of those 2 sides we play surviving. So from a mentality point of view, to remain unbeaten, to get 3 points, gives us that little bit of wind in our sails going into these final four, doesn't it?
It doesn't. It's come at just the right time, to be fair. The last 8 matches, who would have thought would have stayed unbeaten? Admitted it's only 3 wins and 5 draws. But that, like I said, those draws might make all the difference. And it's just strange that we've never done anything since, I don't know when, 1977, was it, against Swindon? We did them. We've never done anything at Newport to call anything since whatever year it was. And we did them as well. Things seem to be turning slightly in our favour. And I think on probably 2-3 weeks ago, I did, if you watch it back, I did say, and I did fancy us out of the next 3 home games to get at least 7 points. I said that 3 weeks ago, and I still feel that. I think I'm confident enough that Mansfield Town will get at least 7 out of the next 3. Whether that'll be enough, who knows?
Optimism, thy name is Alan. Let's have a look at some more of the comments coming in. As always, you're welcome to have your say on your team. Comments, questions, opinions, all of that good stuff in the live feed comments. If you listen to the audio version, come and join us. Make sure you follow us on social media to find out when we're next going to be live. Mitchell says the only answer for the end of this season is promotion. Andy says family of 4... family of 4 means the playoffs will cost us £400 to £500 for 2 semi-finals in Wembley. If we get there, fingers crossed. Just hope that goal difference doesn't come into play, says Simon. Well, it could. Well, if you look how tight the league is at the moment, it almost did last year, didn't it, as well? Salford have 3 games left, says Andy, with 2 away from home. It's in our own hands. He also adds, you can't question Mr. Clough, circa 150 points over 90-odd games, averaging 1.6667 points, very precise, per game over 2 seasons. Enough said. We won't get a better manager on or off the pitch. Club is in good hands. Wouldn't want Fat Boy Evans back, would we? I'm not going to go there at this point in the show. Anyway, yes, we do have to focus on those. Let's touch a little bit more upon Newport before we take a quick break, Clive. You were the only member of the Mansfield Matters podcast panel on tonight that actually were there physically. Me and Alan both watched it on iFollow. I couldn't get out of a prior work engagement for that one. First game of the season I missed in person for a while. And do you know what? I missed you guys. I hope the bus wasn't too quiet without me.
It was a good do. It was obviously smallest away crowd of the season. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. To take 200 people on a Tuesday night down to South Wales, I think, is incredibly good. There was only one SSA coach, and it was great. Everybody on there was in good spirit, and we played a couple of games of bingo, and we had a scratch card and the raffle and all sorts of things going on. So it's a long journey. We made it seem shorter.
There you go. Did you do a quiz?
Say again?
Did you do a quiz?
No, that's your job.
I would have thought in my absence you would have done one, but there you go.
We can't, because anybody who does it's going to be compared to you, and it's just soul sapping if you get compared to your quizzes.
I completely and utterly disagree, but thank you.
Well, just bear in mind, I'm only blowing smoke up your arse. So.
Well, there you go. As long as it's just smoke. Right, let's go back to the game itself. Very interesting to see it play out. I felt we were decent enough, managed to get the first goal. And sometimes, when the scrappy ones come, you've got to take them. And, obviously, Hiram Boateng at the moment, it's just Lee Stevenson wearing a Hiram Boateng mask, isn't it? Fox in the box, scores in and outside the box. It's giving me Lee Stevenson vibes.
It's just he's been wanting that run.
Yes.
An extending run, hasn't he? We've all said it. Everybody, I think every Mansfield Town fan said it in the last few weeks. Give him an extended run. Obviously, he's probably settled down now with the youngster. He's getting an extended run. He got a couple of 3 goals under his belt, and he's playing just as good as anybody else in the team. And fair play to him. He's getting the important goals. But what about Mr. Gale? Hats off. That was awesome. And like Nigel said, he does it regular in training.
And we were saying, weren't we, I think this time last week, Clive, that James Gale, that goal has been coming. He's a very good player. Yeah. In fact, he's probably the best weapon in our armoury at the moment, because he's young, he's hungry, he's enthusiastic, and he can do 3 or 4 different jobs.
Yeah, and because he's young and because he hasn't had much experience on at this level, he is going to make mistakes, and fans and the club have to be prepared for that. Some of his decision making will be wrong, but when given a chance to run with the ball, he took it, and it was one of the few highlights in the game. It was a fairly drab game, if I'm being honest. It was a mucky dirt, not dirty, not foully dirty, but it was one of those games that kept getting broken down, and these happen, and to win dirty, win a dirty game is a measure of success on one level, because they must feel disappointed because they didn't do better than they did, because we weren't playing as well as we have been doing, but we did enough, and that's all that really matters. Disappointed to concede the goal, and it would have made some difference to the league table, but that's been the issue all season with the highest scorers, and yet we're struggling on goal difference. What does that tell us? We've shipped too many goals when we could have avoided it.
Yeah, and that's the key point, I think, at this stage, which is you break the season down, and in September, October, November time, you can talk about how fluid your play is, what you can do to change it, and be reflective. But with 6 games, 5 games, 4 games to go, there's no point in being reflective. You know, if you offered me 4 ugly 1-0 wins now between now and the end of the season, I won't just bite your hand off. I'll take your old bloody arm.
Wouldn't everybody?
Providing Salford don't get one more than us. That's not a problem.
Well, the trick there is that we have that game in hand over Salford. So if we win all ours, it's irrelevant what they're doing. But we have not quite got that knack to do that on a repetitive basis, and it's disappointing when we were 2-0 up that we didn't actually hold it together. But that's gone now, hasn't it? We move on, and it's going to be a defining the rest of the season. It starts next week. Not as you say. No point in reflecting. Where we are. We've got a very short season in front of us, and they're all cup finals.
Yeah, they certainly are. We're going to look into all of those 4 cup finals in just a minute. In just a minute, plenty of time for you to get your comments, questions, observations in. How do you think we'll do in that final 4? Who do you think the toughest test is going to be? And can the Stags get a few fresh legs back in before the full-time whistle blows? And we'll also talk a little bit more about that Stephen McLaughlin decision. All of that to come on the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast, proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Welcome back to the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast. As always, we encourage you to get your comments, questions, observations, and all of the good stuff in the live feed comments. If you're not watching the live feed, if you're listening to the audio version of this, maybe you're walking the dog, driving to work, whatever it is you're doing, come and join us. We're always open to you coming to join us. We are at MTFC Matters via your social media platforms. Come and find us and find out when we're next going to be live. Of course, Alan, it was the 2-1 win at Newport in midweek, which meant a lot of you lot cleared up on podcast predictions, you horrible gits. I was hoping for another goal and a 3-0 win, and Craig would be laughing. But no, you, Nathan, Clive, and Cam all got maximum points on that one for predicting a 2-1 win, you horrible people. But there was a downside to Tuesday, and that, like we alluded to before, Alan, was Stephen McLaughlin, who came on, ran around for a bit, got injured in a tackle he should have never gone in for, and then subsequently tried to run it off, failed to run it off, and went off. He should have never have been brought on, and I have to say that whilst I get what Nigel Clough is trying to do, and that's give him a few minutes here and there to try and bed him in, putting him in the wrong position and putting him on needlessly at that point in the game, I think may well have cost us. I think leaving him out for another 2 games could have had him back, to maybe 80% for the final 2 games of the season, rather than playing him now at 20%. Wrong decision.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have played him. I would like to see Jason Law get more game time, but that's only me. I'm not the manager. But it was his knee, wasn't it? It wasn't the problem that he's had with his injury all the way through. It ended up being his knee that he injured and he had to go off with. But it is one of them, Craig. Nigel knows what he's doing. Whether he's right or whether he's wrong remains to be seen in the end. The fans, we all have his own opinion, but there's only one opinion that matters, and that's Nigel's.
And the fact of the matter is, Clive, as well, that we've had a player back in terms of availability for the last two games, but now it's another one to add to the list, isn't it? If you reel off the players, I mean, again, if I've missed any, please do shout. Anthony Hartigan, Louis Reed, Stephen McLaughlin, Will Swan, Ollie Clark, Riley Park just come back. But we're looking at what? John Joe O'Toole. How can I forget about John Joe O'Toole? Oh, yeah, because Nigel Clough didn't play him before. Anyway, we're looking at about 8 or 9 players, aren't we, who are on that list of
Johnson.
Absentees. He's not injured or absent.
He is. His head's gone.
Well, that's another debate for another time. I'm not going to get in there again because I nearly had a Twitter argument on Tuesday night watching the game. Our American friend Mitchell sent me a message trying to talk about Danny Johnson. He loves Danny Johnson, and I was just like, I don't want to have this conversation again because I'm bored of it now. But the point I was trying to make is you're looking at 7, 8, 9 players all unavailable, and the McLaughlin situation, it was avoidable.
Listen, Clough didn't expect him to get injured. He didn't go out there and say, Mackie, go and get yourself injured, but make it a different limb. He didn't do any of that. That was a player's decision. Whether it was right to risk him, you have to trust the manager to make that decision. And, they must have spoken about it before the game. He will have consulted with the physios and the other training staff, of which there are many. But he didn't, on the day it happened. We just have this propensity for injury at the moment. Somebody said, how many goals are we going to score against Stevenage? I said, we'll score as many goals as we get players injured. So I'm expecting to score 2 goals.
I hope you're going to put that in your prediction later on. Alan, we'll go back from a negative to a positive. We spoke about him earlier, James Gale. Would he be one of the first names on your team sheet on Saturday against Stevenage, or would he still be a bench player for you to come and make the impact? I think he deserves it. I think he deserves a start.
It does deserve it, but it all depends, who else is available and who's fit and running and round to go, because the lad never lets you down, does he? He's proved that times many. When he's come on, when he played his game, he's able to turn players. And, he's quite deceptive with his speed as well. And I was so pleased for him when he scored, because it was like looking up to the heavens when he scored. And he was quite emotional as well, weren't he? I think he was trying to hold the tears back. And I really felt for the lad, I just hope he goes on to bigger and better things, because he deserves to. Because it looks as though, we've got a positive talent there.
Yeah, very positive talent indeed. We're going to talk about podcast predictions later on, but it's time to go back in time because... Can anybody remember what happened 10 years ago today?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just about.
Just about. Promotion from the conference. To see those videos on earlier, Alan, and it's great to see some of the players who you follow and you've become Facebook friends with or whatever over the years, reminiscing with one another as well. Great memories, and it just gives you that little bit of fire in your belly, doesn't it? Of thinking, I'd love that again.
Not half. I'm going to say it was my daughter's 18th birthday party at the Bistro in Nottingham. And they'd all arranged, to go on the coach and whatever. I says, I'm sorry, Shani. I says, I'm going to have to leave it. I says, because there's a possibility that Stags will clinch it. And it's one thing I've always wanted to do, go on the pitch and announce the players getting their medals. It's something I've always wanted to do, and actually managed to do it. And it cost me £21 in the taxi fare to get to Nottingham after the game, but that didn't matter. It was such an emotional and eventful day. That's something that you'll never forget.
And I don't think, as special as promotion would be this season, or would have been even last season, I don't think, anything will ever come close to that, because it was such a whirlwind end to that campaign. And with the players we had, the way that we got to the top of the league, and the fact that the National League, Clive, or the conference, could only have one team go up automatically. It just meant so much, didn't it? 'Cause it felt like the start of something new.
It was weird because at Christmas we were nowhere in it. We'd been our form had been erratic, and then we went on that mazy run where we couldn't put a foot wrong, and all through that, Kidderminster had been the team to watch, and I felt a bit sorry for them at the end because they'd done nothing wrong. And I just have to think, if we'd have finished second, would we have gone up? I don't know. It's conjecture, but I'm really glad we managed to do what we did because we'd served our time in the pit of misery, and I think it wasn't easy to get out of then, and there were some right crappy little teams in the league. It's even worse now. I mean, because the National League is so competitive compared to what it was when we won it. But it's history. We did what we did. Everybody's happy for it. It gave us an opportunity to become a proper football club again. New owners are able to do things that the old previous guard wouldn't do, and we are where we are because of that. And if I could relive the day, I would do. But I'm happy that it's a little bit vague, and I can still remember some of it.
Alan, what would you rather relive? Hereford away, the game before, or the home game against Wrexham? Because I think I'm probably going to be the minority here that will actually say the Wrexham game. I think there was just more to it. Obviously, Hereford was there for all the drama. You had the Kidderminster players that, because it was our game in hand, had come to watch it and were obviously cheering when Hereford scored and all of that stuff, and the last-minute goal and, the commentary clip which resurfaced the other day, which you listened to for the first time, you calling the goal. And all of that. I think I'd still relive the Wrexham game because it was at home. It was the last day of the season. We knew we were almost there. We just had to get over the line. And there's just something more special about doing it at home, isn't there?
And to finish with Matt Green as well, hitting the penalty, that made it more special for me because he was one of my favourite ever players, Matt Green was. But yes, no, I don't think you're in the minority, Craig. I definitely would relive the Wrexham game, although I thoroughly enjoyed the Hereford game. I was sat right at the back of the stand, that I was, with the away fans, and it was just so memorable, getting there, and that even their food people had put the curry on, hadn't they, for everything, for like the Kidderminster fans. They'd done this, that, and other, for everything that was geared for the Kidderminster people, when there were a few of their fans came and the players, like you said. But no, we walked away with the 3 points, and, it's just unforgettable memories that you won't forget.
Yeah.
I'm with Craig on the Wrexham game as being the one that meant more to me in some respects. It's interesting that the two mega promotions this club's had in my history are both involved Wrexham at the end. When we got promoted to the old second tier for the one season we were in there, we achieved that with a win at Wrexham in front of 25,000 people, by the way, a lot of whom were from Crystal Palace, because what the result helped them to get promoted. And they've done quite well since, really.
I was saying,
as indeed the third place team, Brighton have.
Yeah, it was them and Brighton. Look where we are, and look.
And all through the season, Wrexham have been the front runners. They finished out of it, bless them. But you remember those things, and not always the best games you remember. It's like the Wembley win in the Freight Rover Trophy. It wasn't a cracking game, but you remember winning because it went to penalties at the end.
Yeah, it's so good to think back to that season as well, because it was a season where we'd had the heartbreak the year before. So there are some parallels, because obviously Paul Cox's first season, the year before, we lost in the playoff semi-finals to York City. I think Richie Sutton got sent off in the second leg, and it all went a bit bad. And I always remember that because Adam Murray came down after doing his interview afterwards and slumped in a chair. I don't know if you remember it, Alan. Actually, they put me next to your PA box because
that's right. Yeah, I can remember that.
So they put me down there, and I was packing away, and Muzz came down, slumped in the chair, and was sort of in tears, distraught, and had that couple of minutes and went, "We'll do it next year." And once he said that, I knew we'd do it. And I remember seeing him after the Wrexham game after we got promoted, and he had that little glint in his eye, and he just went, "Told you." And even years later, we did Legends Live at Sandy's a few years back when we first started the podcast, and he and Paul Cox and Richie Barker both. Richie Barker did the first half. Muzz and Coxie did the second half, and he said he still remembers that then, and he said, "Still told you," and it's brilliant. And I've had a little bit of fun watching some of those back and listening to some of those back today, and it's those moments that matter. And actually, when you drill into it, Clive, you look back at that season, and a little bit like this one, isn't it? You pick up the pace, you're there or thereabouts, and it's those final few games which get you over the line. It's the belief within the dressing room more than anything else. That the Hereford game, especially, that belief to go on and push. Sands of time may have been against us, but we weren't done, and we need to adopt that mentality for this season as well. We need to finish as strongly as we can to create yet more memories.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best memory for this season is yet to come. That's me being positive. I think we're going to do something better than we did last year. But we have to. It's building bricks. We have to do it one game at a time. Start with Stevenage, and we're going to have to do something we haven't been able to do before, and that's to knock over that bloody Harrogate team as part of this process. Yeah, well, I'm confident we're going to do it. I think on the basis of what we've done in the last dozen games, we're a team everybody wants to beat, because we're actually quite a good team, even with all the problems we've got. And I think we may get one or two fresh legs back from injury in the course of the next 4 games, but certainly if we manage to navigate those 4 games to playoffs, I'm hopeful we'll have a better squad going into the playoffs and hopefully ultimately Wembley.
Yeah, well,
and that will be the memory this season, a Wembley win.
Well, I hope, again, optimism, thy name is Clive. Personally, I'm not so sure yet, but you know me, what's that? I like to live by the mantra of expect the worst, and anything on top of that's a bonus. Speaking of bonuses, we'll come on to podcast predictions in just a minute, but before we do, let's delve into those final 4 games, Alan, 3 of which are at home, and it starts on Saturday with the return of several old faces. Jamie Reid, Danny Rose, bring him home. Steve Evans, Paul Rayner, just to name a few. It's going to be a tasty affair because they are there or thereabouts. And Steve Evans will be not only desperate to get one over the club that he walked out on the brink of another promotion of his CV, but also to get back into and consolidate that place in the top 3 where they've been for the majority of the season. They've got to finish strongly as well. So it is the first of 4 cup finals, and arguably for me, the toughest game. I think it's actually a tougher game than what Leyton Orient is.
I would agree with that, and I just hope the Mansfield public don't make it all about Evans. I think we ought to get behind the Stags. I think I know they will anyway. They'll get behind the Stags. Never mind Evans. If they want to call him, fair enough, but leave it there then. When the match starts, let's get behind the Stags. Don't worry about Evans, because that will hurt him a lot more, Mansfield beating Stevenage, than anybody name calling, because he'll just, it's like water off a duck's back. When
to be fair, Alan, the fans didn't make a big fuss about it last season.
No, they didn't. That's true. And I hope they don't this time either.
He'll get booed onto.
Let's do it where it hurts. And I'm very positive. I am for Saturday. I think we'll do them. We've got nothing to fear.
Yeah, I just think it's a harder game because of what's at stake for both clubs, Clive. You look at the league table at the moment. Stevenage, 3rd place, played 42, 76 points, 4 points above Stockport in 4th place. Stevenage have got a game in hand on them. Stockport having played 43 with 72. If Stevenage can get a win over us and results go their way, that will put a nice gap between them and the playoffs, regardless of who jumps up into 4th place. Defeat for us plus victory for Salford again leaves us training a little bit. So there's a lot riding on it from both perspectives, and I think that's tougher than what the Tuesday night game in hand over Leyton Orient is, because they're already up. They've done their job. There's no expectation on them. They're halfway to the beach now.
Well, I think they'd like to win the medal for being first. I would in their position. I was somewhat disappointed to see what they did at the end of the game when it was apparent that they got promoted. The players just stopped playing. I think that's very unprofessional. But both teams did it. It was they colluded to do it. But I think if they've been promoted as champions by the time they play, as I accept what you've said, they might just go into it in a much more relaxed way and throw a few juniors in. I don't know, but it doesn't matter who we play now. It's going to be a cup final for us, and at our place, we'll sell every home ticket. I'm pretty sure, and we can make a lot of noise, and that's down to Clough and the players after that.
Yeah, I think one key thing for me, Alan, on Saturday is the fans. And when you look at that, our home support has been great. The numbers have gone up. But in terms of what you feel when you're in the ground, it's not on the level that it was last season. The ground doesn't feel as electric as it did. And when we don't come out the blocks and start well, that silence, that cold bit of air does linger a little bit too long. So one thing I want to see on Saturday is let's take the attention off Steve Evans, because it's not beating him which will hurt him. That will hurt, that will sting. What will hurt more is him not getting the attention. Let's put that attention, let's channel that onto us and creating that excellent atmosphere that we felt last season. Because if we do that, the players will go, this is it. That's the light bulb moment, and that will be the difference. Like Adam Murray used to say when he was gaffer, it's the 1% which make the difference.
I think it will, Craig, to be honest. I think it will be a very good atmosphere on Saturday. I can see it being really deafening. And I really don't think there's going to be a problem. I feel, we might get one or two back, but, depending on where the positions are, leave the team as it is. There's only one I'd change, and that's Johnson at right back. I would prefer Hewitt there. I really would. I've got nothing against Callum Johnson, good player, and he will play his part for Mansfield Town, I'm sure. But I would just like to see Hewitt. It's just the left back. If Barry's injured, put either Law or Wallace there. If Maris can come back in, he can slot in and do Wallace's job. I know it's all ifs and buts, but I just feel more confident and more secure with Elliott there.
Maybe even switch the two, because Callum Johnson can play left back as well.
Can he?
Yeah, maybe trial. He can play left wing back.
Yeah,
not much difference. Switch the two, or put Wallace there, because Wallace is comfortable playing there, and I think if Clough swallows his pride, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, and gives Jason Law a start, we've got the options and the flexibility and the fluidity there to put Wallace at left back, who will do a more than capable job for us and not lose too much momentum. So the options are there regardless of how many hands we have got tied behind our back. Shall we delve into podcast predictions then? Let's have a little look at the latest league. Obviously, there's a bit of a swing because of all of you lot getting a 2-1 win on Tuesday. I got a point for predicting a win, but it could have been more if we'd have not conceded and scored one more. That leaves me in 15th place in the podcast prediction standings. And it leaves me in 5th place in the Mansfield Matters standings. But who is top? Is it Clive or is it Alan?
Clive.
In the top 10 is as follows in the podcast predictions league. Roger on 39 points. Then Adam and JS on 40. Cam is in 6th. Cam and Nathan tied on 42 apiece. Anyone know who Nathan is, by the way?
Making me laugh.
Not a clue. Sorry.
I know. Kathy then in 5th on 43. Steve in 4th on 45. Ben, who does all of our podcast predictions stats, is in 3rd place on 46. So there's 2 names I've not read out. One person is on 47 points. The other is romping away Leighton Orient style on 53.
Right.
And the leader of the pack at the moment, as Alan duly says, is Clive with 53 points. Alan Wilson in 2nd on 47. So we go to our leader to figure Just to clarify, for anyone watching that, he was chucking his laptop in the air, not doing anything else. Clive, you are the leader of the pack. So please give us a prediction for Saturday.
Mansfield Town 2, Stevenage 1, 11th minute.
Alan, you're in 2nd. Over to you.
3-1 win, Stags, 25th minute.
Oh, what do I go with? I'm so
7-4. Craig, go for 7-4.
I'm so torn. My heart says win, but my head is saying draw. And I'm going to
go with your burnt arm.
Yep, that's saying defeat. I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go draw. I'm going to say it's going to be an epic, entertaining game. It's going to finish 3-3.
Wow.
The first goal is going to be in the 6th minute. And also, we're going to be 3-0 down.
Oh.
We're going to come back and draw 3-3. And it's going to... And
it'll feel like a win then, isn't it?
It won't be a win. It'll be a draw, and I'll get podcast prediction points. We'll get Nick's, we'll get Cam's, we'll get Nathan's. He does still talk to us, by the way. He is still alive. You just haven't heard from him or seen him for a while. What happens when you can... Congratulations to him and Emma, by the way. The boy incoming. Yes, we'll get their predictions. And if you want to get involved, the link that you need is in the description. No later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kickoff on Saturday, please. Otherwise,
just on the subject of Nathan, Craig, sorry to interrupt you, but I thought a very amusing anecdote. He put a video up on Facebook. He was out with his guide dog and the little lad on his right hand. They came to a curb and he instructed the guide dog to sit. And the little lad sat down.
Quality, that.
At least he's listening to his dad.
Yeah.
Final few comments from you guys at home. Thanks as ever for getting involved and having your say on your team. Just looking at some of them which have come in. Lots of discussions between all of you guys, which is great. Andy says, wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 back Maris, Reed, Oates. Gale could also be the surprise package and have a real impact over the last 4 games. Andy also says, and don't forget Will Swan. Any league team would miss them, especially the Oates and Swan pace. Totally agree with that. Nothing to fear in this league also, says Andy. 7 points will do it. Means Salford will have to win all 3, which I don't think they will. They may not get anything at Carlisle. And Tim says, I agree with Alan. Johnson hasn't done anything special too far. Callum Johnson, that is, there's only one Johnson that's actually worth giving any form of airtime to. I think he was fine until he got injured. He needs a good pre-season and to bed in. That's always the tricky part with January signings, because other than Davies Keeler Dunn and Alfie Kilgore, the January signings that we've made haven't had too much of an impact because they've spent the majority of the time getting to know the physio.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Which is always the case.
If they're all made of the same stuff as Kilgore, we'd be a lot happier, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we absolutely would. Right, that's almost all we've got time for today. And for those wondering, we will do our end of season awards, and we'll do them at the end of the season. There's always a danger when we at this point in the campaign when you start doing awards.
And we're going to undercut their price. We're doing ours at £96.
Yes, we are. Yes, £96 a vote, by the way, plus VAT. So I don't know if we're undercutting or overcutting. Who knows? No, it'd be absolutely free. There'll be all the stuff on there. It's just for a little bit of fun. We do it every single season, so please do get involved. But we're not doing it yet because there's a danger, isn't there, Alan, at this time of the season that people just go with who's doing well at the time. Hence why, I mean, it's been great all season, but that's why Elliot Hewitt's getting every single vote going. You might as well just hand him all the awards now, hadn't you?
Yeah, well, he's done well. You can't fault that. Like the 1 or 2 said on the message boards, if Alfie had been a little bit sooner, playing, he'd have been in with a shout. There's Quinny. Quinny's done well apart from, the ones that he misses. But on a personal note, I think Elliot, hands down, has just been the player of the season in every respect for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about it more towards the end of the campaign. We've got 4 more games to go. 3 of them are at home. Get your tickets. Get to One Call Stadium. Let's pack it out as much as we can. Let's do everything in our utmost to replicate those memories of 21 years ago today when Les Robinson led Mansfield into what is now League One. 10 years ago today, when Adam Murray, the Stags captain, lofted the Blue Square Bet Premier trophy above his head and Alan Wilson cried as he gave out all the medals. Can we do it one more time? There's only one way to find out, and that is by buckling yourself in to the roller coaster ride. The drama, some people say it's already been written. I say it's only just beginning.
Well, that's all we've got time for tonight on the Mansfield Matters Podcast. My thanks, as ever, to the Mansfield Matters Podcast panel, and of course to you guys at home as well, when you've been watching the live feed or listening to the audio version. You're welcome any which way in between. Don't forget to get involved in podcast predictions. The link that you need is in the description. You must enter no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kick-off on Saturday afternoon, on what will be a big Saturday afternoon as well, as Stevenage and of course a former manager in Steve Evans come back to One Call Stadium. They're in third, looking to put a gap between themselves and Stockport in fourth, whilst the Stags need to narrow the gap and climb above Salford to stay in the playoff hunt. It's all to play for. The script is there to be written. Let's go and act out a victory for Mansfield Town, with those memories of yesteryear fully planted in the front of our brains, ready to make the dreams of tomorrow come true. Make sure you follow us on social media at MTFC Matters to find out when we're next going to be live, and join us to share your comments, your thoughts, your observations and your questions on all things Mansfield Town related. Why? Well, simply because this is the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast, proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your week, and come on, you Stags.